Hey guys, Ike here from Mike'sOutdoors.com. Today I want to discuss with you the mistakes I made when I first started shooting a rifle. Okay, so if you can't hear the difference, I've got a head cold, my voice is a little bit messed up. And if you can't tell by looking at me, I am not a young man. So when I say I first started shooting a rifle, I'm talking about less than 5 years ago. I am your typical, what I consider your typical Midwest bow hunter. I bow hunt 90% of the year. When it comes to rifle season, most years I skip it, would hunt it with a bow in my hand rather than a rifle. And on the years when I did actually go out and rifle hunt, it was basically take a rifle out, see if I can hit a pie plate at 100 yards, and that was about it. I'm talking about when I started really wanting to become proficient with a rifle and shoot longer distance, shoot tighter groups and things like that. There's some mistakes that I made, and hopefully this video can help you avoid those mistakes. The first thing is not understanding bullet weight compared to rifle twist rate. Your rifle twist rate is going to be very important on how it can stabilize your bullet. The faster the twist rate is, the lighter the bullet is going to want, and the lighter the bullet, it's going to stabilize better. So you're going to range from 1 in 7, which is going to be the extreme of it, shooting these 223, 55 grain bullets, stuff like that, up to 1 in 12, where you're going to be able to shoot the 175s, the 200, the 225s, those big Magnum cartridge or Magnum bullets that are really putting out a lot of speed and a lot of power behind a really heavyweight grain bullet. That rifle twist weight isn't going to tell you exactly what bullet you can shoot, but it's going to narrow down the grain weight at least. Like this rifle I've got here, this Savage Axis, it's 25-06. I'm not even sure what the twist rate on this is. Probably 1 in 9, 1 in 8, 1 in 9, something like that. And that's where I like to stay, is 1 in 8 to 1 in 9. It's really a good do-it-all twist rate for your rifle. And I can shoot a 117 grain American whitetail out of this gun and put up half-inch groups all day long. Now you're still going to have to go out and buy your American whitetails, your Remington Core-Loks, your different kinds of ammo, and see what this gun is actually going to prefer, because each one are going to perform just a little bit different out of this gun. But knowing your twist rate and understanding that will absolutely narrow that down to a much smaller area, and really it's going to save you money, and it's going to help you get in there without the frustration. The first gun that I bought was a 308. And I can't even remember what the twist rate in it was. It was a long range gun. It was a Savage BA 110 or something like that. And I bought the 150 grain and they didn't work out of it. And I shot 180 grain out of it and they shot a little bit better, but they didn't shoot great out of it. I ended up shooting a 200 grain bullet out of it and it ended up shooting great. But I didn't understand what I was doing, so I spent a lot of money on bullets that I didn't actually end up needing, or that wouldn't work for that gun. So understanding twist rate and how it's going to stabilize your bullets is going to make a huge difference in your accuracy and in your checkbook. Now, the second thing is understanding scope height and how your head should relate to it. I was like most deer hunters. I slap a scope on, and as long as the scope didn't touch the front of the barrel, that was pretty much all I was concerned about. Scope height I didn't put much thought into it. But you can see on this gun, I've got just a little bit of a saddle back here, just a little bit of a cheek rest, and it's got a bare minimum of fill in there so I can raise my head up. One, it's more comfortable. It's definitely more comfortable on your cheek than that stock sliding across your cheek. This is much, much more comfortable. But it raises my head up when I settle in, and this gun is unloaded and it's safe to be handling. When I settle in and settle my head down, it comes to a nice natural area, and I'm 100% in line with my scope without having to do this, without having to move my head around and try to get comfortable. So understanding how to put your scope at the correct height and then how to put your cheek rest in relation to it will make a huge difference in your accuracy and a huge difference in your comfort overall. And it's also an ability to get on that deer or that target faster, because it's in my natural position. I can literally bring my cheek right down to it and I'm immediately lined up with the scope. I don't have to maneuver around and lose that. And with deer in the woods, it's so hard to find them anyway. It's really tough to find them when you're having to move your head around and try to get comfortable and stuff like that. So having a cheek rest, which this is just a cheap, I think $8 cheek rest off of Amazon, and I had to do some custom work to get to fit this gun, but I just took most of the fill out and put a very bare minimum of fill in there, and then just used the lowest scope rings that I could use on this Leupold Rifleman to get it to clear where it wasn't touching my scope and get to where it's comfortable as well. The next thing that really made a huge difference in my accuracy and really made me a better deer hunter with a rifle was my scope and not overpowering it. First scope that I bought was a 4-12 by 50 Vortex Crossfire, and fantastic scope, absolutely great scope. But I did not need the 12 power, and the 50 millimeters is actually okay because it gathers more light. So that was actually an alright purchase there. But I had to set it up so high to get it to clear the barrel that I didn't end up liking it. So I ended up going back to a 40 millimeter. Just it gathers plenty of light, and it's going to clear your barrel and a lot how your head's setting up so high. The other thing about scopes is the power. I never put that. I'm a Midwest deer hunter and I hunt in mostly woodlots. So I never put that thing on anything other than 3 power. That one was 4 power. And I actually had it on 4 power. The first deer that I ever shot with that scope, I had a hell of a time finding her. It was a doe. She's out there about 75 yards. She's in the brush. It was getting dark, and I had a hell of a time finding her. I was actually texting with a buddy saying, hey, there's a deer in front of me, but I cannot find her. I cannot shoot her. And I ended up finding her right at dark. I ended up finding her ears were twitching. And I found her ears twitching and was able to go down her body and just make out where her chest and her legs met and make a shot there and make a good killing clean shot. But the scope was just too overpowered for Midwest hunting. 3 to 9 is about all you're going to need, and I guarantee you're probably going to spend a majority of the time with it on 3 power. The next thing that I really had to learn was trigger poundage makes a huge difference. Let's make sure that this gun's clear. We'll take that mag out of there. This gun is a Savage Axis, just cheap Savage Axis, but it shoots fantastic. With it, when I first got it, I was shooting bad to the right. I was doing 2 things wrong. One, the trigger poundage was a 6 pound, which is way too heavy for a deer rifle. I didn't understand that at the time. The other thing I was doing was I was wrapping my finger around it too far. Instead of having a nice 90 and wrapping and catching it with just the pad of my finger, I had it all the way sunk in. Instead of catching it right here with the pad of my finger, I had it sunk all the way into the middle of my finger and had no trigger control at all. So you want to get your trigger, especially with hunting, you don't want a competition trigger. You don't want it down to like a pound, but 2 to 3 pounds is pretty good. I don't get it down to a pound because if you do forget and you're walking through the woods with this gun on safe, or it's not on safety and it's got one in the chamber, I don't want something that's so sensitive that a stick or a limb can get in here and hit that trigger and actually set this gun off while I'm carrying it. You should always carry this gun on safe, but just like right there, I didn't have it on safe there. So trigger poundage is going to make a huge difference in your accuracy because it's going to take you less energy to pull it, less spring rate to pull it. It's going to take less poundage to pull it, so that's going to make it a much smoother, crisper trigger, and it's going to make it a nice, better shooting gun than a heavier trigger. A lot of the guns come with an adjustable trigger. Adjust that down to where you're comfortable, and then go from there. These Savages that don't come with an adjustable trigger, you can go on M-Carbo. You can buy the M-Carbo spring kit, put that in here, and it doesn't make it adjustable, but gets it down to the 2 or 3 pound range by just changing the trigger in here. The other thing was like I said, absolutely getting sunk in there too far. It came from archery, from deer hunting, and shooting a super sensitive release. Was such a bad thing. I would wrap my finger all the way around it to where it's sitting right here and try to pull through with my whole hand. Well, that's what I was doing with this rifle as well. I was absolutely wrapping my entire finger around that trigger rather than just hitting it with a pad. So what I do now is get that nice 90 with my trigger finger, put it right centered in the middle of the pad of my finger, and then I can get a nice feel for that trigger. I can feel the curve to it. I can feel it as it breaks, and especially on a 2-stage trigger, which I'm starting to really like, I can feel it as it creeps up against that wall. So it really gives you added sensitivity to it. And I got it on safety. And it really makes it a nice, controllable trigger and a nice, controllable, repeatable process. So those are a few things that I learned when I first started shooting rifle. Those are the things that made the biggest difference in my shooting ability and my accuracy, and those are the things that made the biggest difference. I wish I'd have known then that I know now in my accuracy as well as my wallet. So If you have any tips, any suggestions, anything that you think might help me or anyone else, please put those in the comments below. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and share these videos, and please be sure to check us out. Again, I try to make videos every few weeks, but basically it's when inspiration hits me. So try to stay with the channel and stay checking back with us, and hit that bell and you'll get notifications when we put up videos. That way, if I don't put them up every week, you'll get a notification and you'll know when we have a new video up. So I hope this helped you guys out. Put a comment below. Maybe you can help me out, make me a little bit better shot as well. So until we see you guys next time, I appreciate you watching.